We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help.
We received your message, and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her.
Sad news keeps circling Nancy Guthrie, and the most recent update is the kind that stops you cold. She is 84 years old, the mother of Today show anchor Savannah Guthrie, and she was taken from her quiet Tucson home in the early hours of February 1st. Months passed. Then word got out about a second note sent to a local television station. It claimed she did not survive long after she was taken, and that she was left somewhere out in nature.
This morning, new details coming out regarding the ongoing investigation into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. According to 3 people familiar with the matter, the second of 2 notes sent to media outlets from an alleged kidnapper following the 84-year-old's disappearance indicated that Nancy had died.
Sit with that for a second. I am going to walk you through the night she disappeared. Then I will show you why a note like that can be both the biggest lead in the case and completely impossible to trust. And once you see how the search has spilled across an entire border, you will understand why this one refuses to end. Let us start at her front door. Vanished between one night and the next. Here is what you have to understand about how ordinary that last night was. On January 31st, a little before 10 at night, a family member dropped Nancy Guthrie off at her home after dinner. That is the last confirmed sighting of her. No argument, no warning. Just an 84-year-old woman walking back into her own house in the Catalina foothills outside Tucson. The next day, around noon, she was reported missing. The reason is the kind of small detail that stays with you. Nancy had plans to go to a friend's house to watch a church service online. She never showed up. That is how the alarm was raised. Not a scream in the night, not a smashed window discovered at dawn. A woman simply did not arrive where she said she would be. By the time anyone went looking, the most important hours were already gone. And in that gap, something happened that turned a private home into a federal crime scene. On February 10th, the FBI released footage pulled from Nancy's own doorbell camera. It showed a masked individual, described by the Bureau as armed, near her home in the early hours of February 1st. FBI Director Kash Patel put out a surveillance image of what the agency called a potential subject. You can look at those frames yourself, a covered face, a body moving with intent. And here is the part that has frustrated everyone for months. With that footage out in the open, seen by millions, the person in it has still never been identified. Sit with that for a second. Clear video of the moment a case turns from a missing person into an apparent abduction, and not one confirmed name has come out of it. Authorities have said plainly that they have not publicly identified a suspect or a motive. What they have said is that they are treating this as a taking against her will. Investigators have reportedly been analyzing mixed genetic material found at her home, including a hair sample. That word, mixed, matters. It hints at more than one person's trace in that space, which is the kind of thing that can crack a case open or lead nowhere at all. Now, layer on who Nancy is. She is not a celebrity. She spent her life out of the spotlight. But her daughter Savannah anchors one of the most watched morning programs in the country. The moment that connection became public, a quiet disappearance in Arizona became a story carried on every network, including the one her own daughter works for. That attention brought resources. It also brought noise, and the noise has never stopped. What most people do not realize is how fast the next blow landed. Because within days of Nancy vanishing, the people who had her, or people claiming to, started writing. Ransom demands that did not add up. In the days after she disappeared, more than one note found its way to the media. Most were filtered out, but 2 of them, both sent to a Tucson television station, were treated by investigators as potentially credible, and the FBI worked to trace where they came from. That alone tells you something. Out of everything that flooded in, 2 pages stood apart. The first note made a demand you might expect from a kidnapping built for profit. It asked for millions in cryptocurrency in exchange for Nancy's return. And here is why that detail carries weight. Bitcoin promises a kind of distance. It can move without a name attached. Whoever wrote that note was not asking for a duffel bag left under a bridge. They were reaching for a payment that is hard to trace and hard to claw back. Her family answered. On February 7th, Savannah posted a short video aimed directly at whoever was holding her mother. She said they had received the message and understood it, and made clear they were prepared to pay. Read that back slowly. A daughter on camera telling strangers she will give them what they want if they will only send her mother home. There is no script for that. There is only the math of love against a deadline. But here is the catch. No exchange ever happened, because a second note arrived, and it did not ask for money at all. According to law enforcement sources briefed on the investigation and reported by CNN, ABC News, and others, that second letter claimed Nancy had not survived. It said the people who took her did not mean for her to pass, but that she died shortly after going missing, and that she had been left out in nature. The Tucson station that received the notes, KOLD, was asked by both the family and law enforcement not to make the contents public, and for months they did not. Think about the whiplash inside those 2 pages. The first treats Nancy as a hostage with a price. The second treats her as already gone, with an apology folded in. That shift is the heart of this case, and it forces a hard set of questions. Did something go wrong fast during the taking? Was an 84-year-old simply too fragile to survive whatever happened? Or was the second note a cold tactic, a way to shut down talks and walk away clean once the writer realized the heat was too high? Stay with me, because this is where the whole story turns on a single word. Claimed. A message. Her family begged to bury here is the thing almost nobody says clearly enough. That note claimed Nancy did not survive. It did not prove it. There is no body. There is no map. There is no confirmation. The second note offered no further demand, no location anyone could check, nothing that would let investigators verify the worst sentence in it. And that absence is its own kind of cruelty. A family was handed devastating words and given nothing to confirm them and nothing to disprove them. You cannot grieve what you cannot confirm. You also cannot hope freely once you have read it. That is why the family asked the press to hold it. Not to hide the truth, but because an unverified claim about a loved one's passing, splashed across headlines, does damage whether it turns out true or false. For months, the contents stayed out of public view. Only recently did the details break wide. And through all of it, listen to how Savannah has carried herself. In March, in her first interview, she spoke with her friend and former co-host, Hoda Kotb, and said something that lands harder than any dramatic line could. Honestly, she said, they do not know anything. Her family, she said, cannot be at peace without answers. And she made a quiet appeal to whoever might be holding a piece of this. Someone can still do the right thing, she said, and it is never too late to do the right thing. That is a woman who has read a note saying her mother is gone and is still in public, leaving the door open, still asking, still treating the case as unfinished, because as far as anyone can prove, it is. If stories like this one are why you are here, the kind where the official record and the human truth have not caught up to each other yet, that is exactly the kind of case worth following closely. The details are still moving. 5 months and a search without borders. What started in one Tucson home has since pulled in 2 countries, federal leadership, and volunteers who never met Nancy in their lives. The reward climbed to a combined $1.2 million, with $1 million of it offered by Savannah herself, for information leading to Nancy's recovery. Money like that changes a search. It brings real tips. It also brings opportunists and false leads, and investigators have had to wade through all of it. The search has reached far past Arizona. A volunteer group in Mexico called Buscando Corazones Nogales got involved after an anonymous tip in May claimed Nancy had been buried in a shallow grave about 70 miles from her Tucson home. They searched on May 16th and found nothing. A second tip pointed to another nearby spot, and that came up empty too. In mid-June, they searched 2 more locations near Nogales, in Sonora, Mexico. They did not find Nancy. What they did find were 25 unmarked graves, none of them connected to her. Sit with that number. 25 other stories surfaced by accident while searching for one woman. There has also been friction at the highest levels. FBI Director Kash Patel said in early May that the Bureau had initially been kept out of the investigation, and he criticized how local authorities had handled it. The acting Attorney General, Todd Blanche, later acknowledged reports of tension between the FBI and Arizona law enforcement, while saying a coordinated approach was what the case needed. When the people in charge are openly disagreeing about who should be leading, you start to understand why 5 months have passed with no resolution. There was even a moment that captured how raw this has become. Human remains were discovered about 7 miles from Nancy's home, found by a true crime live streamer drawn to the case. For a breath, it looked like a turn. Then testing came back. The remains were prehistoric, with no link to Nancy at all. That is where this case lives now. Every lead spikes hope, then collapses. On June 11th, Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos confirmed his department was aware of the reports tied to the Mexican search group, said they had not been contacted by Mexican authorities, and stated the investigation remains active and ongoing. 2 retired investigators, a former FBI agent and a former Pima County SWAT commander, have suggested the answer may lie on tribal land in the region. That is a theory, not a finding, but it shows where the thinking has gone after every closer lead ran dry. What is solid and what is not? Let me drop the drama half a notch and just talk to you straight, because you deserve to know where the firm ground ends. Here is what is solid. Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, was last seen the night of January 31st and reported missing the next day. A masked, reportedly armed figure was captured on her doorbell camera. The FBI is involved. 2 notes reached a Tucson station and were treated as credible enough to chase. The first demanded cryptocurrency. The reward stands at $1.2 million. The case is active. Searches have stretched into Mexico. No suspect has been publicly named. Her body has not been found. Here is what is not solid, and this is the part it would be wrong to paper over. The claim that she did not survive comes from a note that offered no proof, no location anyone could verify, and no way to confirm it. Investigators have treated it seriously, but treating a claim seriously is not the same as confirming it. As of now, Nancy's whereabouts are unknown. That is the honest status. Not a tragic ending. An open one. Here is the question worth arguing over. When a missing person becomes a national story only because of who their child is, does that spotlight actually help find them? Or does it bury the real leads under noise and reward seekers? Tell me where you land in the comments, and if you want to follow this case as it actually develops, fact first and no guessing, subscribe and stay with it.